Today's show is brought to you by DraftKings. As y'all can see in the bottom of the screen, shout out to them. You know, the top rated sports booking app. And we rocks with them in a big time way, man, because they are safe, they are secure, but more importantly, they are reliable. And for all those people that are trying to get into this thing or starting to get into this thing, man, that we like to call sports booking, you know, sports betting and stuff like that, make sure you download the app, DraftKings Sportsbook. And when you download that app, it's going to have a time where you can make your first wager, right? Well, when you're making that first wager of a minimum of $5, if you use the promo code MOATS, you will also receive an additional $200 in free money for your bets. All right. It's a simple concept. Put in 5, use the promo code, get an extra $200. I kind of like that deal, Deke. I don't know about you, but it seems pretty legit to me. All right. But either way, it's a dope concept. Now, I also understand on the contrary that sometimes when we start having a little fun, we overdo it. Sometimes we might create an issue. Maybe even a gambling problem. Might even need some crisis counseling, referral services. I mean, if that is the case.
Yeah.
See, that's a number that you could dial. For my New Yorkers, you got a number you could text. But for the rest of y'all in the room, wherever you're at right now, I want you to listen real closely. I said if you need some services, the number you should call is 1-800-GAMBLER. I said 1-800-GAMBLER. We are missing our talented people. We are missing key and critical people. And I understand that Bills defense was missing people too. That's fine. The difference is they have a Josh Allen. That does mitigate a ton of losses. That is like a force multiplier. We've experienced that before. We know exactly what that feels like. But that hurts us, man. When we don't have those type of players, and our team right now is structured to win with our defense being dominant, creating multiple turnovers. When you don't have all those dogs over there at 100% health, Minka was also leaking a little oil out there. It's like, man,
you could tell he was limping a little
100%. Bit. But it's like, man, when you see that, it's like, yo, this is what it looks like. So it's not an excuse, but don't act like that's not context. Don't act like that's not a part of this equation, because it very well is. And when you're talking about a defense leaking oil, missing those type of people versus Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, we talked about Gabe Davis. We said that even though he didn't have a ton of touchdown numbers this season, that he still was one of them dudes for them. He really came on the scene last year in the postseason. The Chiefs game, he really lit it up. Say he was one of them dudes. And that showed. But it was like, man, we still should have been a lot more competitive to me, I felt like.
Yeah, for sure.
Still should have been more competitive.
Because you have how many times, and we've seen it close up with the Ravens, when they've had a ton of dudes out on defense, going back to even that 2020 COVID game. They had so many dudes out with COVID. They still competed. It didn't look like what it looked like yesterday.
Not at all.
So that's why I do think some of the blame goes to Tomlin. That's something that Ryan Clark tweeted out. Like,
no, it does.
There needs to be better preparation. There needs to be a betterness of getting these dudes ready.
100% it needs to be like that. And when you're talking about the accountability element of it, this is where you start to see what is that going to look like. You showed, in terms of Coach Tomlin, what you're not going to deal with, right? By pulling out Mitch when you pulled him out. To me, Mitch, even in that moment of being pulled out, wasn't as bad as some of the stuff that we've continued to see at other positions. So, if you can pull your quarterback of your team, nobody else is more important than the quarterback. If you can pull him, man, anybody can get got. You sat Gunner, right? You sat Gunner on Chelsea. He didn't have a helmet. He didn't even dress him. So clearly you were fed up with that. Now, I'm not saying that you got to sit a Deontay Johnson and take his helmet, same with Chase Claypool, but what I am saying is maybe you reduce his snaps. Because
get Miles Boykin out there.
Because the method that they're taking right now is what? That, hey, man, you'll play through it. You'll figure it out. And that's cool when it's week 1, 2, and 3. But we're no longer in weeks 1, 2, and 3 anymore, Deke. At this stage right now, I'm asking myself, okay, are you sending the message that it's okay to go out there and continue to drop passes? It's okay. Hey, you'll get the next one.
Run you don't bad get the routes like Romo was highlighting on the TV screen.
Oh, you don't want to come flat? You want to go? You want to drift? Okay, cool. Hey, don't worry, you get the next one. Because that's what it starts to feel like. And if that's the case, well, what do you think that's going to do around the other parts in this position? When the other people on the team looking like, well, shoot, if you ain't going to pull him out, I ain't got to worry about it either then. I'm just going to get my numbers. Hey, man, I'm going to rush the passer. I ain't worried about y'all. Like, that's what it turns into. So you've already done one. You did the special teams. Let's keep it going until we find a group that is going to go out there and compete and do what they're supposed to do consistently. Like you said, you still need a Deontay Johnson this season. Deontay is still a good player.
Dude still gets open.
He still gets
Dude
wide
is still
open.
A great receiver.
His route running is filthy.
Why does he make these incredible catches? And he's just barely out of bounds.
Yes. It's just the consistency thing right now. And it's a I don't
what
know
the hell? And he drops the ones wide open that we really, really need.
I don't know if he has a half-size shoe too big right now. I don't know what's going on, bro. I've seen too many of these toes. I don't know. Okay? But he needs to go down and half-size shoe. But I'm like, you still need him. So it's not a headshot. It's more so a, hey, we're going to go over here and have a nice conversation in this alley. And then when we come back here, you're going to act what you're supposed to act. That type of thing. You know, we ain't got to put him in the front seat of the car. We ain't there just yet. But that is something where I'm just asking myself, like, at what point do you say enough is enough? At what point do you look at Chase and say, well, you know what? You're not doing this. Let me give a Miles Boykin an opportunity. To me, like I said, George Pickens has to be the guy going forward. You have to target him more. You have to feature him more in this offense. But those are some of the little things when you're talking about sending messages, when you're talking about how to drum up a little bit more consistency, a little bit more accountability. Those are some of the things that you do. Because if I'm another guy on this roster and I see you pulling the $18 million guy and you saying that he's not all right with what he's doing, well then, shoot, if I'm making anything less than 18, hey, I ain't got nothing I can say about that, right? And those are some of the things we're talking about right now. So, as you said, man, we're talking about coaching staff and how that thing can go down. All that's on the table to me.
Everyone gets blamed for
Absolutely,
yesterday,
man.
Everyone does.